You're listening to What She Said on Canada Talks.
We have the great pleasure, Sharon and I, of being joined in studio by Carrie Saxifrage, who is author of The Big Swim, a book that's garnering significant critical acclaim, I hear, Carrie.
Yes.
It's making quite the waves.
Yes, I feel like it's being very well received, and I appreciate that a lot.
So why don't you tell our listeners what was your reason for writing this book, and what is the message that you really hope to convey?
That is such a great
question. Or the
question.
conversation you're trying to start, which really is the crux.
Yes. Well, I've always wanted to write a book since I was about 7, so that's part of it. And in addition to that, as I became more aware of climate change, I decided to write a book about climate change. And this is an issue that can be very overwhelming, and it comes to us in terms of facts and data. And even for myself, somebody who's quite familiar with the facts and data, it can be too much. And in my view, it's something that we all have a tremendous stake in, and the sooner we really look at it, the easier it's going to be for everybody. It's going to be less expensive. We have all the technology we need for a great new future, but how do we look at it? And so I wrote stories about it, and I was helped a lot by my writing group. I went to a writing program and came out with this group. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they were not particularly interested in climate change, and they were quite clear with me about that. Yeah. So
a little too scientific for a literary mind.
Yes. They're great writers concerned about many things like end-of-life issues and mental health, but not climate change. So if I got too technical, they would write in the margins of a draft. My eyes glazed over. And one of the writers actually has sons in the tar sands, and she was really not interested in reading anything about how climate change is bad. But she would write in the margins, I am interested in how you engage with climate change. So that is what the book is. It's a lot of stories. Many of them actually have nothing to do with it. They're just great stories from life on a small island on the West Coast. And then there was a moment when I really became aware of myself, and I saw climate change as something that was impacting my own most heartfelt values. And for myself, that's my son and nature. And to fully understand what we're doing, that there's more carbon in the atmosphere than at any time during the history, the 200,000 years that humans have evolved, is a very sobering thought. And it's almost like the rug was yanked out from under me in terms of wanting to give my son the same opportunities that I had. And I realized I wasn't going to be able to do that unless I really engaged with this issue.
Now, when you collected all of these stories, how did you come up with the title of The Big Swim, Coming Ashore in a World Adrift?
The Big Swim is the first chapter. It's the title chapter. And it has to do with a swim I took from our little island, Cordes Island, to Quadra Island along the ferry route, which was about 8 kilometers in the open ocean.
Oh my gosh.
That I did with friends. And it set up sort of this quest metaphor, like how do we find our sense of meaning and how do we belong in the world in a way that's really reciprocal. And so while there's not climate change in that chapter, it's a lot about finding my place in the world and really seeing the world as a big, intricate, vast, amazing place that's not all about humans.
Wow. And I can imagine there was a lot of thought going on during that swim. That's a lot. How long does it take to do that?
It took 3 hours and 40 minutes.
Wow.
And that's the recurring question. Why am I doing this?
Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Now, you say that you steered away in the book from too many facts and figures and the science end of it, the stuff that
makes textbook stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that makes people's eyes glaze over. So what emotional response were you hoping to elicit? Because you had an emotional response, obviously, to certain things that made you want to write it.
Yes, I did. And I have I'm surrounded by people who love science, and I feel like that has taught me a lot because I am a very emotional person. And the response that I'm getting is that people really appreciate being able to think about and read about climate change in such personal terms, because it's not a directive book. It's not telling anybody how they should think or feel about it. It really is just my experience and a way to say, you know, this is what counts right now at this time, and this is what I'm doing about it. And I can't imagine that anybody would engage with it how I am, but it's kind of nice to hear how other people are dealing with something that's very difficult.
Well, I think, Christine, you nailed what we're getting here is the opportunity to start conversations.
To start a conversation. And I was going to say, you know, I think the whole issue of climate change is so huge and complicated and scientific that many people like me feel I don't quite understand, because it's a big puzzle. We all interconnect with one another. Human beings, the earth, the atmosphere, you know, there's a whole systems, ecosystems and whatever that all, it's like a big puzzle. And most of us don't understand how that works. But on an emotional level, if you hit me emotionally and you tell me that, I don't know, you tell me something that hits me emotionally, just a little bit,
and the
just
changes,
a tiny thing, that I can respond to.
And the changes that we can make in our little tiny lives on this planet do make a difference.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the conclusions that my husband and I reached about climate change is that we didn't want to add to the burden of it. So we chose a low carbon lifestyle. And I think that that is important, not for the reason that if everybody did that, we would solve it. I don't think everybody's going to do that. But I think it is important as a signal that for many of us, this has really become a core issue that affects everything. You know, it affects water supplies, it affects food supplies, insurance companies are quite concerned about it, even national security. A recent study pointed to the drought in Syria as a cause of the ISIS rebellion. So, you know, we're seeing the impacts, and they're going to get larger, and it can be overwhelming. So what I wrote about, being a real nature lover and outdoors woman, one of the chapters is about this little adorable creature that's in the alpine area called a pika. And I have always loved pikas, and in fact we chose our last name Saxifrage because it grows in these high mountain meadows where pikas are.
Oh.
So when I read that climate change is affecting pikas because of the decrease in snow melt, in snow cover, which insulates them during the winter, and it gets really hot in the summer, and they're very furry. Even the bottoms of their paws have fur. So I went to see how my favorite pika colony was doing, and you know, really had to ask myself, what does it mean for myself at being alive at this time in life that these things that I truly love are in danger of extinction if we keep on this path?
You are listening to What She Said on Canada Talks 167 Sirius XM, and we are talking to the author of The Big Swim, Carrie Saxifrage, and we were just talking about pikas, and there are many other animals that that may go the way of the dodo bird if we're not careful. Where do you think people can start?
Well, I would suggest that people read my book or
Yes,
a book
absolutely,
like mine,
yes.
because it really is an easy way in. You know, I've spoken of some of the more serious aspects, but throughout the book, I've done some things that are adventurous and at times ridiculous. So it's a good laugh. And, you know, and there's a chapter about the death of my mother. And so, you know, it's also a good cry. And through it all is just this question, you know, we're on a quest. And how do we live our life in a way that is really richly satisfying? And for me, part of that is living in a way that is consistent with climate stability and consistent with, really supports the life forms on the planet.
And you do take cues from our First Nations peoples, a great place to look when we're trying to return to nature.
There's a chapter in the book called The Ulakan and the Snake, where I go and speak with Haisla elders about the impact, the potential impact of the proposed Northern Gateway pipeline on their land. And I have to say, one of the good things about climate change, if there is any good things, is that we're all in the same boat, and it can really bring us together with people that we haven't been together with before. And for me, that was such an honor, and I learned so much about the First Nations culture in BC.
And there's such a true respect for the land in that culture.
Well, I went to some of the testimony of the Joint Review panel in Smithers, and the Wet'suwet'en literally said, "We are the land." You know, it's their subsistence. It's where they do their governance. It's where their churches are. It's where their graveyards are. Like, their identity is so wrapped up in the land. And for somebody like me who, you know, my relatives came from Scotland, 200 years ago or something, it's just such a different
Very
view.
much.
Yeah, it's very holistic.
Very healthy, though. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think at this point it's really about the conversation, because change is affected always when an issue rises up and the spotlight is turned on it. And do you feel that this is happening?
Well, I can tell you that on this book tour, after I read, we have some of the greatest conversations, and it's a whole different kind of conversation than I've heard about climate change, because it's almost like the way it's presented to us disallows us from really taking it in and thinking, okay, what do I love? How does this impact that? And I guess if there's one way to express what I hope the book is about, the coming ashore, is to really identify what we love and stick up for it and do everything we can. And for myself, it's low carbon living, but that's really just a signal that I am all in for the political solutions. It's a systemic problem, and I talk to people and they're like, oh, but I drive a car and this sort of thing. But we have all the technology we need. We just need government policies that bring the new infrastructure into place. And life will be better. You know, we talk about jobs, and renewable energy actually has more jobs than the fossil fuel industry. And we talk about health effects. You know, imagine a city where there's no air pollution and where we're driving electric vehicles, and active transportation where we're riding our bikes more, and local food. We know our farmers. Like, I think it's a much more connected lifestyle, and I think in a way people are longing for that. They're missing that.
Hopefully we'll have some more conversations started when people pick up your book, The Big Swim, Coming Ashore in a World Adrift. And thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you.
And
what
where
a pleasure.
can people get this book,
Where
by
can
the
we
way?
where can we buy the book?
Yeah.
I'll be doing a reading at another Story bookstore tomorrow at 7 p.m., and they carry it. Also, the publisher is just a great publisher, New Society. You can go to their webpage. It's also available through Amazon, and a lot of chapters, and the chain bookstores are carrying it as well.
Excellent.
Wonderful. So for anybody, again, The Big Swim, Coming Ashore in a World Adrift, Carrie Saxifrage. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Click the channel subscribe button for full-length interviews and more from What She Said here on YouTube.